The most important work of your life is the work you do within your soul. This is Home Improvement for the Soul.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Home Improvement for the Soul. I am Maddie Cheers, and I'm very pleased to have you join us. So, why Home Improvement for the Soul? So during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time watching HGTV. I was recovering from a bout of Lyme disease, which was very challenging, and I noticed a couple of things over those months. One was that I talk to God every day. So let me be honest. I have been talking to God every day since I was a kid, since I can remember, actually. And since I was about 5 years old, I would go to sleep and have conversations. So some people would say, well, that's a kid's imagination, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm telling you that to this day, to me, I am speaking with the Creator. And I can say for a fact that my belief and my talks with the Creator, my prayers, everything that I did throughout that particular visitor, because we do not name our sicknesses, because that gives them power, just a little aside there. But in the cultural groups that I have been fortunate enough to be exposed to, indigenous cultures, which we'll talk a lot about on this series of podcasts, in these cultures, they do not name diseases. They look at the person, they see what's going on with them, and they refer to the illness or dis-ease as the visitor. Because if you refer to it as the visitor, hopefully it leaves. So that's how I referred to that particular part of my life. And I also found that it was my faith, my belief that kept me going, that kept me well, that got me well. And I also noticed that there's a sort of connection between that and home improvement shows, because what makes us so happy with home improvement shows is we're watching people take something that's unattractive or doesn't function or is hurting a family and turn it into something beautiful, functional, something that that family or that couple or that person appreciates so much, because now it's something for them. It's exactly what they wanted. And you get to that big reveal and everybody just feels great. Sometimes you're crying, you want to cheer, but that's the way we should feel about our lives. And in doing the work which I do, I am an interfaith minister, and I have been facilitating women's circles for a very, very long time, about 15 years. And I have been facilitating spiritual circles that are not with women, working with my husband, Bob Vetter, who you guys will get to meet in a few weeks on this podcast. So in doing this work, what I've discovered is that everybody that's working towards building their life is working towards connecting with their inner self, that you have to do that work. And that if you are on a shaky foundation, you don't have a faith, or you can't identify what it is that you want to do, what direction you want to go. A shaky foundation with cracks in it means your house is going to fall apart. True? So the first thing you have to do is shore up that foundation. You have to have a process. You have to have a plan, just like an architect plans what the house will look like, just as you sit with the architect and plan. And the great thing is, you don't have to do this alone. It is like on the show where it takes a whole team. And the even better news is that your general contractor is the Creator. So basically, you can't fail. As long as you keep that in mind, even if you don't know what that means to you, even if you have not got an entire concept of what your faith may be, and a lot of people don't, right? We see lots of people, especially young people today, turning away from organized religions. They're just not finding it relevant to them, but at the same time, they're looking for something to belong to. And some of the reasons that we have so much division and so much dissent is because while they're searching around, what you tend to do is gravitate towards people who are similar to your belief. But sometimes those people can be misleading. So if your foundation is not a spiritual foundation, is not a foundation that speaks to your soul, that speaks to your heart, it's going to crumble. And you're just going to end up bouncing around group to group, belief to belief, ism to ism. So who wants to do that? It's a waste of time, right? And you're hurting your soul. So the idea here is to look at that foundation, to find a way to connect within yourself to your soul's purpose. Purpose is such an important word. Our purpose in life is something that some of us find very early on. And some of us, like me, don't really come to it till I was about 60, in my 60s, definitely. I'm almost 70 now. And I think I had a life journey where I did take a bunch of risks. I did do everything I thought I wanted to do. I did teach children. I did move to New York because I thought I wanted to be a singer and a dancer and an actress. I did all of that stuff. Spent the longest 7 months of my life in LA. So I did the things that my soul was directing me to at the time, though I don't know that I described it that way. And looking back, that's how I see it. And even though I was not a successful in terms of what other people call success, I didn't make it. I'm not famous. You never heard of me before, most of you. But I had this journey of discovery. So most of my life has been about discovering how I got here and how I get to know the things that I know and met the people that you're going to meet and share with you this whole idea of journeying, of building. And when you're building yourself, you've really got to listen to your soul. If your soul tells you, ooh, you want to act, go to New York. See if you can act. Go. Do it. Right? And also, if your soul is telling you that you want to do a certain thing at a certain time, make a plan. Be the architect of your own home, right? This is the only home you've got. This body, and it's not separate. There's no such thing as body, mind, spirit. It's all one thing. It's just that your soul lives within this particular manifestation here on the planet Earth. So have faith. Have faith in the Creator and faith in those voices you hear. What happens to a lot of us is a lot of us don't listen to the voices. We get into a job we don't like, we can't stand it, we dream of being something else, we dream of doing something else. So what you do, though, is you listen to those dreams and you make a plan. I was just talking to a young person who she couldn't decide what job to do. She needed to make more money. Should she stick with the 3 part-time jobs? Back and forth, back and forth. But what she ultimately decided was she was going to go to the job, the reliable job where she could make more money, have benefits, but she was going to go through that ancient Chinese philosophy of 8 hours work, 8 hours play, 8 hours sleep, and just plan her life so that while she was in this job, that was basically what we used to call in the theater, still call in the theater, a rent job. She was going to find the time and build into her life a way to stay in touch with her soul. And that's what we're going to explore here, because there are lots and lots of people with lots of different ideas about how to do that. So even if you're out there feeling confused about how to do that, or sad or angry or whatever you're feeling, number 1, acknowledge your feelings. That is your soul talking to you. Number 2, don't get stuck in the feelings, especially not the sad and the angry. Look at that as your indicator of where you need to go from here. Then, number 1, the number 1 wall that you will build in your home improvement project is your gratitude wall. You have got to be in a place where you appreciate what you've got, whatever that may be. And let me tell you, one of the number 1 things we should be appreciating in this country is the freedom to build those walls, is the freedom to think about and act on, well, how do I get from this job, not too crazy about, but it's paying my rent, to that place where I've created this beautiful home for my soul, where I've created this expression of myself that I can refer to as my success, because everybody's success is different. If you think your success is all about making money, then go out and figure out how to make money. I have no problem with that. Nobody who is truly, truly a loving, kind, spiritual person who sees us all as one has any kind of problem with people who feel like their soul's goal is to make a bunch of money. It's the world we live in. If they're not going to be happy until they make a bunch of money, and then you see people who make a bunch of money and they go off to do amazing things and give away all their money, I mean, there are people like that out there. But you are the one who has to decide. Do not let the overculture decide for you. I once was in an art gallery, and I met the guy who ran the gallery, beautiful art gallery, Asian art, and there was this beautiful series of 3 pictures on the wall that had been painted by an artist from Vietnam. Stunningly gorgeous pictures. And it was a depiction of everyday life in 3 panels. And I said, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing I think I've ever seen, at least one of them. And he said, yeah, I just had it returned to me. And I said, you're kidding. He said, no. One of the ladies came in. She loved it, fell in love with it. She was having her house redecorated. She brought them back to her house, and her decorator looked at it, her interior designer, and said, oh, no, they don't go here. They do not belong here. No, you have to get rid of those. Oh, no. No. Get rid of the designer. If the designer is telling you, oh, no, get rid of him or her or whoever it is. That's who you get rid of. When your soul speaks to you, and it speaks to you every time you look at a work of art and love it, every time you listen to a song and love it, don't let somebody else tell you, no, your soul is making a mistake. In my books, you should have kept the 3 pictures, like I just said, gotten rid of the interior designer, because they lessen you. That voice, you fall in love with something, anything, and then somebody comes in from the outside and says, nah, not good enough. No, it's not in. It's not the look that I'm going for. It's not good for you. Anybody who second guesses your soul, your soul's vision, your soul's choice is not there for you. And sometimes you got to say goodbye, So that's one of the things you might want to think about. 2, who do I need to say goodbye to? So you already got a great general contractor, right? The creator in you, the creator around you, the creator above and below you, the creator, God, right? So we're cool there once you've established that. Now you establish the people that are going to help you get there, the things that you're going to do, the things you need to do. So the plan is very important. And you don't have to make like a huge plan that goes 10 years into the future. Make a plan that goes 1 month into the future, 1 week even. If it stresses you out to plan for more than a week, then don't do that. Plan for what you're going to do today. I'm going to do this one thing today that leads me towards fill in the blank, whatever your blank is. That leads me towards building that wall. But I'm going to tell you, things will become a lot clearer if every day you start, or even at some point, you make a list of all the things you're grateful for in your life, because we've all got many of them. It's very, very important to recognize that if you don't live in a country like ours, you don't have opportunities like we have to go figure out what kind of home you want to build. You don't have the opportunity to find a home decorator, an interior designer. You don't have those opportunities because in most of the countries in the world, people are just trying to get food, shelter, and clothing. So that is a very important thing for us at this time to focus on. We are so fortunate. And no matter what your circumstance is in this country, you can go higher. You can get out of that circumstance. I was actually listening to a young man speak the other day on YouTube, and he was talking exactly about that, about how he and his family, how he got out of the inner city. And a lot of it had to do with his faith in God and his family's faith in God. So if that doesn't seem like an avenue that you want to explore as far as building your foundation, this might not be the podcast for you, but then you never know. So you might want to stick with us. Now, one of the things I like to do in my podcast and on my page, if you are on Facebook, please feel free to join my page, the Women's Oneness Project.com, and please join. Oh, well, the .com is the website, but the page, the group is the Women's Oneness Project. And I'm Maddie Cheers, by the way, M-A-D-D-I. No E, no Y, M-A-D-D-I. Cheers, like the toast, like the old TV show, C-H-E-E-R-S. If you're Googling me, though there isn't going to be much on me, but you never know, right? So one of the things I love to do is introduce people to books they may not have read, people they may not know about. So I want to talk to you about this book, The Art of Breathing. You wouldn't think that was an art, would you? But again, there are simple things you can do to start you on your way. Gratitude, the number one thing. A gratitude journal, a gratitude list. Anything like that. Number one, we know from science that just being grateful changes the chemistry in your brain. You release serotonin. You become happier. And being grateful for one thing leads to another thing. So I would say try and come up with at least 5 things you're grateful for every day, and I'll bet you come up with a lot more. So The Art of Breathing is by Danny Penman, Ph.D., and he is co-author of the international bestseller, Mindfulness. But what I love about this book is that, you know, there's a lot of courses out there on how to breathe correctly, and I am sure that for those people that can afford to sign up for those courses, they are wonderful, because really I didn't even learn about breath technique till I was much older. Some of it I learned already through training as a singer, so I was very fortunate in that way. But breath work is really a big deal. And really, I love this advice. And this is such a beautiful little book. It's not very long. It's got cool illustrations. It's very funny. You'll like it. Trust me. Much better than getting some big technical manual on how to breathe. Anyway, so the idea is to get into a space of being calm. And the way you breathe, and breathing is very good at that, because when you're calm, then you can make better decisions and everything becomes clearer. So I love this little section where he says, breathe in, breathe out. When in doubt, breathe out. You know how when you get like nervous or tense and you just go like, right? Like I did just before doing this. It works. All of that. So he has these very simple advice, and I do this every day. I do this if I'm going somewhere. Really simple. It's not that complicated. Obviously, we're all breathing. It's what connects us to each other. That's one of the things about mindful breathing, is it reminds you that all of us in the world are connected. We really are one. And we are one with all the creatures that breathe. We really are one. Our breath, our air connects us. So you just take a long, deep breath while counting slowly to 5 in your mind. Pause for a moment. Then breathe out while counting to 7. Now, the great thing he says about that is your count to 5, your count to 7 can be quick. It can be whatever your pace is. So eventually it will lengthen out, and you repeat that breathing until you feel more solid, more whole, more in control, more calm. It's a practice that once you start it, you find yourself going back to it again and again. I just had physical therapy. I've got arthritis in my hands, and I love my therapist. I love her. I However, because some of the physical therapy is painful, I've got to do a lot of breathing to get through that pain. And it doesn't matter if your pain is physical or your pain is emotional or psychological. That mindful style of breath work, I've heard people do it 4 in, 8 out. Whatever works for you, just make the breath out longer and do that little 1 second hold after you breathe in. And then you breathe out, little 1 second hold before you breathe in again. 1 count hold, whatever you need to feel or know about your breath. And those 2 things, more than anything, will improve your ability to build your soul, to connect to your soul's voice. So, gratitude and breathing, pretty basic stuff. Now, for those of you that don't know me, which is most of you, I have been receiving, I would call it receiving poetry through the divine. I have a book coming out soon, The Mandala Meditations. 15 years ago, I started when I was dealing with some very severe childhood trauma in therapy. My therapist suggested that since I was not very good at sitting around and just being quiet without my brain constantly going, she suggested that I do mandalas. I draw mandalas, which are circular designs, right? And they are very relaxing. The process of doing this has been used forever and ever. The process of staring at mandalas or mandalas has been used for a very, very long time. Some of us are very familiar with it from Tibetan culture, where they do the sand mandalas and then blow them away to remind us of our impermanence. But drawing them, doing that circular motion really opens up your soul. And when I first started doing it 15 years ago, it opened my soul to the point that I would hear poetry as if it was being dictated to me. I am not sitting here creating this in the way that people create a novel or in the way that many people write poetry. I am hearing this. I am taking dictation is the way I often describe it, or downloading info. So I can also answer questions. So I asked, given all the divisiveness that we're facing, about a little less than a month ago, I decided I would ask, why the Great Divide? And here's the answer I got. The brightening sky that breaks the day and cleaves the time in 2 for play, if seen as what it's meant to be, creates a world that's young and free, a world of possibility, a world of hope for you and me. This ancient split, this divine sight, can lead us from this painful plight of ignorance and tiny soul, and make the conscience fully full and whole. The thing we call duality is just a lesson in the me that only knows its own, the me that often must be shown. That power lies within us each, and that is why the elders teach a gratitude in all we do, a gratefulness from me to you. Each one a sentence in a rhyme, each one a lesson throughout time. We each and all are those who choose to follow love, or else we lose the power of Creator's whim, the power of the good in him or her, or flower or plant or seed. This power of love has been decreed by all the forces of the skies. By heaven's gate it truly lies. But those who only lie in wait are those who make us hesitate and close our eyes and block our minds to truth of the most basic kinds. To bring this balance back again, we only need to watch the rain, this water that restores, renews the life force of both me and you. With every drop of love we share, renewing lifelines everywhere, like rivers flowing into seas, these lifelines nourish all who flee. From those who keep the greed alone, from those whose wanting makes them stone, to end Creator's deepest source, to end the love and change the course of women's power and women's goal, and break her mind and tear her soul from out of womb and into tomb, and bury her beneath the moon, so she can't know her truest self, and once again placed on a shelf, the powers of the demons here are free to spread their hate and fear. But foolish beings of the night, you know not, you cannot hide her light, and yet you try in every age, for fear of no one feeling rage. Your wage is weaponry you've honed, your heart and soul are turned to stone, your light so dim you cannot see the beauty of what lies in thee. You were not meant to stomp and shout. You were not meant to cancel out the truth of your own inner voice. That crooked path is your own choice. There is no other forcing you to disengage from all you knew. Return to light, return to love, and let your soul now rise above your ego's gnawing, wanting voice. It is this way. Now make your choice, and let your soul now rise above your ego's gnawing, wanting voice. It is this way. Now make your choice. So may you have a week full of making beautiful, brilliant, loving choices for yourself and others, and we'll see you back here again next week. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for joining us for Home Improvement for the Soul. If you'd like more information, please go to womensoneness.com or maddiecheers.com. That's womensoneness.com or maddiecheers.com. See you on the next episode.